Hello and welcome to episode 39 of Movies You Missed podcast. How you doing today, John?
I'm doing well, V. How are you?
I too am doing well and I'm so happy we've kicked off 2023 of this podcast.
As am I. I think this episode's going to be a lot of fun as well.
Oh, I was very much looking forward to this episode for quite a while, actually, because Batman is my all-time favorite comic book character.
Well, there you go. Oddly enough, I wouldn't say Batman is my favorite, but I do like majority of the Batman movies that I've seen. That even includes the Snyder Dawn of Justice. You've mentioned Batman's your favorite comic book character. Mine was Spider-Man when I was growing up, and I actually never really read a whole lot of DC comics when I was growing up. It was mostly Marvel, and I definitely saw Batman with Michael Keaton in Batman Returns, and Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. So I've seen majority of the Batman movies, although I haven't seen a lot of the animated Batman movies, and there's a lot of those.
Yes.
And I actually, after this week, feel I want to kind of go down that rabbit hole and watch some more of them, especially one that we'll likely talk about shortly. I think this was like the first R-rated one that I'm talking about was The Killing Joke. Had come out recently, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So yeah, I'm looking forward to discussing our two Dark Knight movies.
Yeah, me too. And one of the things that I am so happy with this age of cinema, and I know that a lot of people are getting tired of comic book movies, and I think that's fair. For me, growing up in the 90s, I was always made fun of because I played Magic the Gathering card game, because I read comic books. And, you know, nerds and geeks were really ostracized growing up in the 90s. And so now that this is so mainstream, all it does is make me happy.
True.
And yeah, we can talk about how there are too many Marvel productions coming out at this point. And I agree. I'm not having a big problem keeping up with all of them. And,
yeah,
you know, DC and Warner Brothers is a bit in shambles right now. And I get that. But at the same time, looking at it from a lens of someone in their 30s, it's just really nice to see this mainstream. And you know, I had the same exact feelings when Lord of the Rings came out.
Ah, yes.
Again, with fantasy, with comic book, they used to be on the fringe, and now they're a bit more mainstream. And yes, a lot of people can say that's too commercialized. I get that. But there are so many mediums that you can experience these characters and superheroes. I mean, I think the Netflix Daredevil series was a really great series, and there's a lot of TV series if you don't want to watch movies. There's animated series if you don't want live action. There's comic books if you don't want to watch TV. You know, on and on. There's graphic novels if a comic book story is too short for you. And so the nice thing is that you can experience these heroes in any medium that you really want to absorb and consume. It just depends on your preference, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Good point.
So I hope that this isn't the last comic book episode that we have or superhero episode that we have. This is the first, and I hope our audience enjoys it as much as we do.
Yeah, I think they will, especially because both of our movies are a bit different on the Batman spectrum.
They are, you know, and that's the thing. When we talked about this a lot the last couple of weeks when we were talking about this Batman episode, we both wholeheartedly agree that The Dark Knight is the best Batman movie ever produced.
Yeah.
In terms of quality of cinema. Christopher Nolan, as our audience members know, we are big fans of him. Heath Ledger as the Joker was, of course, iconic and Oscar-worthy. And that is a incredible movie that a lot of people did see, and we do agree that it is the best. These two movies we decided to pick this week instead are our favorites.
Yes.
And we're hoping that this introduces our audience to new storylines or new entries in the Batman universe that maybe they haven't seen before.
Which is kind of how it went with us. I had not seen your pick this week. I remember when it came out, and I remember wanting to go see it, but I never did. Just wasn't one that I was taken to.
Yeah, and for your pick, I think a lot of people had seen it, but I bet you most people haven't seen it in quite some time.
Definitely.
And so it's one of our entries that just might be fun to revisit.
It's definitely the fun to revisit side, and it is my favorite because, and we'll get into the reason why it is my favorite, but overall, like V mentioned before, The Dark Knight is the superior of all the Batman movies, and I have not seen the new Batman with... Still have not seen it with Robert Pattinson. I still have to watch it. You know, maybe my mind will be changed after watching that, but I highly doubt it because, I don't know, there's just something literally almost perfect about The Dark Knight as a standalone superhero movie.
I'm really interested to hear when you do watch The Batman because it has the Riddler in it. And it is a complete 180 different take on the Riddler that Paul Dano does.
Well, I will have to check that out. I am a Paul Dano fan, so
Yes.
I knew he was in it. I actually did not know that he played the Riddler, so I guess there are spoilers on this show.
I'm sorry.
Truly did not know, but I know that Colin Farrell is the Penguin, so that was already kind of spoiled, but that's okay. I do need to watch it.
You will absolutely not recognize him as the Penguin. I thought he had a phenomenal makeup team, but also did a fantastic job in that role. It took me making a concerted effort to see him behind all of that.
Wow, okay. Well, I definitely got to check it out then.
I was incredibly impressed.
Awesome.
Because the last comic book movie I had seen him in was Daredevil.
Was he in that, really?
He was Bullseye, and it's such a terrible movie. And he was so over the top in it. And so when he was cast, I was like, well, this is going to be interesting. He looks nothing like the Penguin that I envision in my mind or have seen previously in its different iterations.
Right.
And then you see him and you're like, holy shit, I can't believe that's actually him. It was great.
No way.
Oh, yeah. That's fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I look forward to definitely watching because I am a Colin Farrell fan.
Awesome.
So before we get into our picks for this week, we just wanted to touch on the fact that the Golden Globe Awards were last night. Very exciting because it is one of many award ceremonies that will be going on for the next several months. Even though this is a movie podcast, we do still have our television loves, and we just wanted to kind of touch on our opinions and thoughts on some of the winners and kind of go from there. So, V, I'm curious what you thought about this year.
I was surprised by a couple of the wins, actually.
Yeah?
Most surprising was the non-English speaking film winner, Argentina, 1985. I was really hoping for All Quiet on the Western Front to win. I'm a big fan of that movie. It's one of my top films of 2022. Although I haven't seen Argentina 1985 yet, but from what I've been reading online as well, it was a bit of a surprise for most people.
Sure.
So I was a bit surprised by that, but there were other wins that I was just so joyous about, especially Angela Bassett winning for Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
For our audience who has listened to this podcast, they know that I really enjoyed that movie and specifically called out her performance when we discussed that movie a couple months ago now.
Yeah.
And I was also very happy for Austin Butler. He poured his heart and soul into the role of Elvis. We both agree that he did a fantastic job. So those are two of the winners that I was really, really happy for.
Oh, fantastic. I have not seen Wakanda Forever. I am looking forward to seeing it. And overall, I've enjoyed Angela Bassett's performances over the last several years in several movies that I've seen her in. I think she's great. I was very excited to see Ken Yu Kwan win for Everything Everywhere at Once. Also Michelle Yeoh, fantastic wins. Everything Everywhere All at Once is a complete and utter spectacle of a film. For those that have not seen it, get to it immediately. It's amazing. It's fantastic. I have the 4K. My sister got it for me for Christmas. I was very excited that Gerard Carmichael was hosting. I had no idea that he was penned to host the award ceremony this year. I had the pleasure of working with him several years ago on a Funny or Die video. He was a fantastic human being, very funny, kept everybody in very high spirits throughout the day. I think we shot about 16 hours on a football field in downtown Los Angeles with him and a whole bunch of little peewee football players, and it was really cool. I was very actually kind of surprised to see RRR win. It's been on my to-watch list for the last several weeks. I saw a sequence from that movie that just blew me away. So that was very exciting to see them win Best Original Song for Natu Natu, I believe was the name of the song.
Yes, although I do wish that Lady Gaga had won for Hold My Hand, just because I thought it was a great song for a great movie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think a lot of people were holding out for Lady Gaga. or Taylor Swift to win. For some reason, Taylor Swift was nominated for a Golden Globe. But hey, who am I to say anything? I don't listen to the popular music. I was very excited to see Guillermo del Toro win for Pinocchio. For our listeners that listened to our earlier episode a few weeks ago, we were very on the fence about how we felt about that movie, and I've thought about it since, and I don't think I liked it. I liked the animation, though. It is definitely a beautiful movie to watch. Overall, though, I did not think it was that great. And like you mentioned earlier, Austin Butler winning for Elvis was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, so overall, not a bad night. I don't think that any of the wins, either in TV or movies, would really upset a lot of people. It seems like all of these awards were very well deserved.
Yeah.
I think that actually demonstrates the quality of movies and TV that came out last year.
I completely agree. Yeah, and my wife is not much of an award ceremony watcher, and she had asked me earlier tonight, she says, what's the difference between the Golden Globes and the Oscars? And I said, well, the Golden Globes is the Hollywood Foreign Press. It is all movies and television, whereas the Oscars are just movies. So Amy actually got a little bit more comfortable in that aspect because she watches so much more television and streaming shows than I do. So a lot of shows that she watched, she actually was excited to see win. Case in point, she was excited to see Abbott Elementary win. The two leads in that, they took home Golden Globes for that. And she's a very big fan of The White Lotus. I mean, how do you not like Jennifer Coolidge?
Yes.
So it was very, very awesome to see Jennifer Coolidge win for that show. I have not seen it, but Amy said she was a big fan of season 1.
Yes, and I always say the Oscars is very prestigious and only movies, and the Golden Globes is where everybody gets drunk.
Exactly, as Mike White said up on stage, which I thought was hilarious. I liked his acceptance speech. And said, "You've all passed. We know you all passed on this show, and it's very, very gratifying to be up here right now." I love that. And for those that don't know who Mike White is, he wrote and directed School of Rock and wrote and directed Orange County, both starring Jack Black.
And he won for The White Lotus.
And there we go. He won for The White Lotus. I was very happy also to see Steven Spielberg win Best Director for The Fabelmans. I have my reservations about The Fabelmans. However, after doing a little bit more research and thinking on it, and now listening to Steven Spielberg's acceptance speech, I'm going to have to watch that again with a completely different pair of eyes, and I think I'm very likely it's going to hit a lot harder this next time around.
So that wraps up our recap of the Golden Globes. We did live tweet it, and that's something that we're actually going to do for the Oscars as well, if anybody wants to follow along.
Oh, yes.
And now I think it's time to get back to the episode.
I think we should.
So before we dive into our movie picks this week, for any of you new listeners, welcome to the podcast. John and I have known each other for over 25 years, and collectively we have almost as much time spent working in the film industry, sometimes together, sometimes apart. So we decided to start this podcast. It is a movie recommendation podcast, and we love discussing movies without spoilers.
Indeed we do. No spoilers here.
So welcome, all listeners. Thank you so much for joining us. And now we are going to don our capes and get this thing going.
All right. Nice. So for those of you that were listening to our first episode last week, we discussed Upgrade and Hardcore Henry. And like every episode, we also like to tell you guys what we're going to be watching over the next week so that you might be able to follow along. And if you were listening and if you followed along, you will know and have watched along with me the 1995 Joel Schumacher-directed Val Kilmer as Batman, Chris O'Donnell as Robin, Jim Carrey as the Riddler, and Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Batman Forever. And like I said last week, Batman fucking Forever, because this movie is so much campy fucking fun.
It really is.
Oh my gosh, so much fucking fun. I've watched this movie so many times. I have the VHS copy of it. I've had in my Amazon cart the Blu-ray of all 4 Batman movies: Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. And Batman and Robin would be the one that I would get rid of, although my wife would kill me because that's her favorite one. And it does crack me up because...
Thank you for not choosing that one.
Oh, you're very welcome. But I'm going to tell you right now, when I was watching Batman Forever the other night, my wife, halfway through, goes, this one's the stupid one. The one that I like is better because that one has Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze, and it's so stupid and fun. This one's just stupid and stupid. I'm like, no, it's not.
No, it's not. It is the perfect balance of camp before hitting the level of ridiculous.
It really is, yeah. It's like how old, and I even said to my wife, I was like, there's a lot of dialogue in this version of Batman Forever that are ripped from the old 60s comics.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like very, very dry, very simple dialogue. Like, Robin says something like, holy something metal
Holy
Batman.
rusted metal Batman.
Thank you. Yeah, and he's like, what? And he goes, oh, no, look, it's holy and it's rusted metal Batman.
And he's like, oh.
Yeah, and my wife just looked at me and rolled her eyes.
No,
and I was
that's
just
a
like,
great nod to campiness.
It is.
While still explaining it away to be literal. So it's like, no, they're on this island that's made of metal and it's all holy. So,
yes.
So it was a perfect opportunity to say something campy without being actually campy. Like I said, balance. It totally reminds me of 1960s Adam West Batman, which I love.
For sure.
Just the first Batman movie I ever saw was
really?
Adam West-led Batman. It was awesome.
Oh, no shit.
Highly recommend it. Super fun. And
I've never seen it.
Oh, God, it's great. My brother and I used to watch it all the time. And it has great nods to it without being totally ludicrous like Batman and Robin. I mean,
yes.
Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, ice to see you.
Oh, so many ridiculously bad lines. Yes. And after the credits rolled of Batman Forever, because I watched it on HBO Max, I ended up watching the trailer for Batman and Robin with my wife, and like it's like 30 seconds in, and my wife goes, "See, this one's the better one." I'm like, "No, it's not." She goes, "No, Uma Thurman's in it." I'm like, "Yeah, she's hot as Poison Ivy, but the movie is just not good at all."
No, it's
but
not.
My wife would not hear of it. She was like, "Nope, you picked the wrong one. I picked the right one." I'm like, "Okay, fine."
You can remind her that George Clooney apologizes every time he's asked about it. So she has no leg to stand on.
That was kind of the funny thing, too, about the trailer for Batman and Robin. Like, he lands as Batman, he goes, "Hey, Freeze." But there's nothing different to his voice. So it's just George Clooney standing like he's got a stick
cowl
up his ass. Yeah, and he's like, every time he turns to the left or right, he like leans with his shoulders. It's like, good Lord, man.
I'm sure couldn't turn his head.
Yeah, that's right.
He couldn't turn his head in that suit.
Which they address in The Dark Knight, I believe. Later, all them years later, Christian Bale's like, I can't turn to the left. he doesn't say that to, what's his name? Lucius Fox. Yeah. I can't turn to the left, Lucius. No, he doesn't say that to him. But anyway, let's get back to Batman Forever.
Yes.
Which is what we're here to discuss, from 1995, directed by Joel Schumacher. And for those that know who Joel Schumacher is, quite the name of a director from the 90s. Definitely did some killer movies. He did A Time to Kill. He did Tigerland, which was a war movie with Colin Farrell. He did The Client with Tommy Lee Jones. He did 8mm with Nicolas Cage. He directed Phone Booth, again with Colin Farrell. And he directed this. And he also directed Batman and Robin, which we were also just talking about. And he's very famous for Batman Forever, really, because everybody, well, more I think so Batman and Robin, because everybody really does not like, except for my wife apparently, like Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
And majority of people will say that Batman Forever is the better of the two that are not directed by Tim Burton.
Yes.
And I completely agree with that, 100%. So here's a little breakdown of Batman Forever, and since we don't do spoilers, you're really only going to get about 5 sentences, because other than that, it's a Batman movie, so what else can you really expect? Batman Forever opens up with the villain of the story being Harvey Dent, Two-Face. Harvey Dent is hellbent on getting his revenge on Batman because he is convinced that Batman was behind the reason why the mob boss decided to throw acid at Harvey Dent's face, and which then leads him to become Two-Face and get very, very maniacal. And I gotta say, as much fun as Aaron Eckhart's Two-Face is in Christopher Nolan's universe of Batman, I love Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. I think he was just fucking killer, and I feel like he had a really great time playing Two-Face as well, unless he's just that great of an actor. I mean, there actually hasn't been a whole lot of information about Tommy Lee Jones on the set of this movie, except heartbreakingly, he and Jim Carrey did not get along because Tommy Lee Jones could not stomach Jim Carrey, and that really sucks, I hated hearing that, and every time I watch this movie, I'm like, but honestly, seeing them on screen together, it looks like they had fantastic chemistry.
They did have great chemistry. I thought that was a great pairing. I thought that was one of the things that makes this movie very fun and very good.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer that Jim Carrey he's just he has a very big personality, and it just annoyed Tommy Lee Jones according to his interviews, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, very much so. So we have Batman, doing his thing in taking down the bad guys, doing his vigilantiness and whatnot, and working through his trauma of having lost his parents when he was a kid. Early on in the film, the bat signal is up in the sky, as we all, we love to see the bat signal in the sky, because that's when, either the Tim Burton soundtrack comes about or this new one kind of comes about. And I kind of like this new one. It's a little bouncy, a little bit more colorful, I guess. It's not so deep and brooding. But it's a fun soundtrack. And so Batman, goes and meets up with Commissioner Gordon, and he's got this bombshell of a psychologist with him named Chase Meridian, played by the Australian bombshell, like I said before, Nicole Kidman. Fantastic. And then there's a little bit of alluding to the fact that maybe Batman's all of a sudden going to have a bit of a love interest. And after we meet Chase Meridian, we go to Wayne Enterprises. Bruce Wayne is getting a tour of one of his facilities and just kind of seeing what's going on, getting the lay of the land. And this is one cool thing also that I liked about some of the earlier Batman movies was that Bruce Wayne was involved with the company, whereas in the Christopher Nolan universe of Batman, he was so preoccupied with Batman that he barely was involved in any of the board meetings. So it was kind of cool to see Val Kilmer's Batman be involved and get his hands dirty and go in there and see exactly what Wayne Enterprises is kind of up to. And this is when he meets Edward Nygma, played by Jim Carrey. And Edward Nygma has nothing but admiration for Bruce Wayne. He really wants to meet Bruce Wayne, number one. He hasn't met him yet, and he wants to show him this little contraption that he's been building. So at one point or another, he finally does get Wayne's attention, and Ed Begley Jr., who I thought was kind of funny in his 5 minutes of screen time in this movie, is kind of the supervisor of this section of Wayne Enterprises, is trying to keep Edward Nygma away from Bruce Wayne. But Bruce Wayne's like, nah, man, let's see what this guy's all about. So Edward Nygma starts telling him about this thing that he's come up with where it's really going to change the way you watch television. You wear this little contraption on your head, and the TV that you're watching all of a sudden becomes 3D, and you can, see colors and hear music and touch everything, and it's going to be really, really cool. And he needs some extra funding to kind of push it forward. And Bruce Wayne's like, well, you know what? Why don't we set up a meeting and we'll talk about this stuff in the next week or two? And Edward Nygma's like, well, I actually need an answer right now. And, he's in a way, he's kind of taking that initiative, as one of those small time guys in the company. He's like, well, I got his attention now. If I can, put my foot down and give him, the ultimatum, maybe I'll get that extra funding. And then Bruce Wayne's like, well, if you don't want to go meet with me, then I am afraid I have to say no. Messing with people's brains is really not the way to go about, getting this technology out there. So Bruce Wayne leaves. Edward Nygma gets a little upset. And I always kind of like how he goes, you were supposed to understand. I'll make you understand.
Mr.
Oh, Bruce Wayne.
No, that's my name. And you are?
Nygma. Edward Nygma, you hired me personally. Just like I tell everyone. We've never actually met, but your name was on the hiring slip. I have it.
So, Mr. Nygma, what's on your mind?
Precisely. What's on all our minds? Brainwaves. The future of Wayne Enterprises is brainwaves.
You would have to apologize, Mr. Wayne. I personally terminated
His project this morning.
It's okay.
I have it. Voila. Huh? My invention beams any TV signal directly into the human brain. By stimulating neurons, manipulating brain waves, if you will. This device makes the audience feel like they're inside the show. Why be brutalized by an uncaring world?
Did you say manipulating brainwaves?
Yes. I just need a bit of additional funding for human trials. Let me show you, please.
Now listen, Ed. I want a full set of technical schematics on this, okay?
I want you to know we'll be full partners in this, Bruce. Look at us. Two of a kind.
You call my assistant Margaret, she'll set something up.
That's not gonna be good for me. I need an answer now. I think I deserve it.
I'm sorry, Ed, then the answer's no. Tampering with people's brainwaves, mind manipulation. It just raises too many questions. Sorry.
Thanks, everybody. Keep up the good work. Factory looks great. All right, everyone. Back to work. You were supposed to understand. I'll make you understand.
And then the next bit we see is Edward Nygma at home trying to kind of figure out what his villain costume is going to be. And that's when he decides that he's also going to take down Bruce Wayne and Gotham City. And then he pairs up with Two-Face, and they both wreak havoc on Gotham City while Batman tries to take him down, along with Robin. And Robin is actually introduced as a trapeze artist who actually, I believe in the early comic books, he and his family were originally trapeze artists.
Yep, the Flying Graysons.
There it is, the Flying Graysons. So at one point in this circus that Bruce Wayne's at with Chase Meridian, we meet the Flying Graysons. So that's pretty much Batman Forever. There's really not a whole lot else to get into unless I spoil the movie for people, which we do not do here at Movies You Miss podcast. A lot of interesting trivia for Batman Forever. Before we get into that, though, I'll talk a little bit about the writers. The opening credits reminded me similarly to your pick, actually, this week, V.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
And, again, Batman is Batman. A lot of times, how many different fonts can you use, for Batman?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And different computer-generated Gotham cities for the opening credits, which was actually pretty badass for a lot of the practicality of Gotham City for Batman Forever. I really, really liked it. And again, that goes back to Batman and Batman Returns also. The practicality and, concrete fake city, essentially. Gotham does not exist. It's always portrayed very, very fascinatingly. The one thing I like about Gotham City in most of the Batman movies is that the city is disturbing because it's very dark, and every time Gotham City's mentioned, within the first 5 minutes, Arkham Asylum is also mentioned. Mm-hmm. And it seems like Gotham City is one of those made-up cities in all of comic books that has the most disturbed characters in it. And that's the one thing that I think I always liked about Batman, especially about this movie, because of the maniacal attitude for both Two-Face and the Riddler. And again, like we've already said several times, they play off each other very well.
And I really like how Gotham City in Batman is its own character. It is a very pivotal part of plot lines within the Batman universe itself. It is the city he's trying to save. It's his parents' city. It's very meaningful to him. And if it wasn't that important, he wouldn't be Batman.
Exactly, yeah.
And so I love how Gotham City has its own part to play within these storylines. I thought the set and production designers of the Tim Burton Batman movies were great. I also think that the colors and the campiness that were added into the Gotham City set design for Batman Forever really fit in with the tone of this movie.
Absolutely, yes. So a little bit about the production of Batman Forever in 1995. So the film is written by Lee Batchelor, Janet Scott Batchelor, and Akiva Goldsman. I had not heard of Lee Batchelor or Janet Scott Batchelor. Looking them up in this one, they've only had a few other writing credits. But Akiva Goldsman, a lot of people might recognize the name. He is one of the creators of Star Trek Picard, which is on CBS and Paramount Plus right now. He was a writer on the Stephen King adaptation of The Dark Tower. He wrote Winter's Tale. He wrote the Angels and Demons adaptation from the Dan Brown novel. He wrote I Am Legend with Will Smith. He wrote A Beautiful Mind. He wrote.
Jesus.
He's been around as a writer and a producer for quite some time, and I actually always hoped that he would show up on the set of Star Trek Picard so I could at least say, hey, I was in the same room. But to my knowledge, I never was in the same room as Akiva Goldsman.
What a bummer, because that is
Yeah.
a pretty nice list of credits.
Oh, most definitely, yeah. Bob Kane, the creator of Batman, credited for characters based on,
Of course.
and characters created by. And according to Bob Kane, this film and Val Kilmer's performance are the closest he ever envisioned to a Batman portrayal.
Whoa, I'd never read
I
that.
know. Isn't that interesting? I thought that was very strange, especially considering, for the 60s or even earlier than that, when Batman was released to the world, there was definitely, like we've mentioned before, that campiness and that fun and childlike wonder to Batman, although there was still, like you said, the city, Batman is trying to save a city. I thought that was very fascinating to read, especially coming from Bob Kane, the creator. That had to have been some high praise for Val Kilmer, I'll bet.
Yeah, damn.
There was one thing I found very fascinating as I was doing my research for Batman Forever. Batman Forever was nominated for 3 Academy Awards.
What?
I know. And it's funny, watching this movie, I'm like, I can totally see it. Jim Carrey, Best Supporting Actor. Tommy Lee Jones, Best Supporting Actor. Val Kilmer, Best Actor.
No, they were nominated for those categories.
No, I definitely know. But this was a true nomination. Chris O'Donnell for Best Supporting Actor.
No.
No, I'm kidding. No, the nominations for the nominations for Batman Forever were cinematography from Stephen Goldblatt, and the cinematography was actually very nice. It was very colorful too, and I really like that also about Batman Forever is with Tim Burton's Batmans, they have that bruised look, very white, very dead, very gothic kind of look to them. Batman Forever came out on the scene being purple and green and blue and just
Pink.
all these really cool colors. And one thing I didn't actually get into was we have really cool cameos by 2 lovely ladies named Drew Barrymore and Debbie Mazar in this movie.
I was going to ask you about Sugar and Spice.
Oh, yeah, Sugar and Spice and everything nice. Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face's little henchwomen. Really badass portrayal of how he has 2 different sides to his personality. And one of my favorite scenes in all of Batman Forever is when they're both feeding him his dinner.
Yes.
And, it's like the sugar side and the spice side. And both very beautiful women. Debbie Mazar is a very, very interestingly attractive woman, and she's every time she's on screen, I always enjoy her.
Yes.
She's in Goodfellas. She's Vincent Chase's publicist in Entourage. She is in so many different movies, and she plays such a sassy bitch majority of the time.
Yes.
And she's so fucking good at it. So it was great to see her in this. And Drew Barrymore, 90s Drew Barrymore. I mean, goodness gracious.
I totally agree with you. I love both these women in these roles, and I'm curious which one you would prefer.
Oh, jeez, that's a tough one.
Right?
Oh, that's really tough.
It's 2 sides of your personality that Two-Face is showing, and a lot of people have those sides to them, and so I thought it was a great literal portrayal of his dueling personalities that he now has.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So one thing I actually didn't like about this movie, and I also didn't like it about Batman and Robin as well, I do not like the Batmobiles in these the last 2 movies of the 90s. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Why's that?
They were just a little bit ludicrous for me. The wing is huge. They're lit internally. I don't think they're very menacing looking, and they're also not stealthy. And that's the thing, is that Batman, though being very notorious and having a bat signal, he also is, dressed in black. He sneaks up on bad guys, and so I didn't really see that as lining up with his personality with these Batmobiles in those last 2 movies of the 90s.
Interesting. Well, it's oddly enough that you say that because, they looked a lot bulkier in these last 2 portrayals of Batman before we jumped into the Christopher Nolan universe. And interestingly enough that you mentioned the Batmobile, my next piece of trivia for you, V, was that Chris O'Donnell insisted on driving the Batmobile in the one scene that he did his little joyride in. And, a lot of the production people, the stunt people were like, maybe not a good idea, Chris. And he insisted. So they let him do it. And he crashed
No,
the
he
Batmobile
didn't.
into a curb, and he dented the bumper of the Batmobile. So maybe next time, just let the stunt driver do it.
Although, oh man, I would not have been able to pass up an opportunity to drive such an iconic car.
For sure. No, and I completely get it. And speaking about Chris O'Donnell and the role of Robin, I thought it was very interesting to learn that Leonardo DiCaprio actually was considered for this, but turned the role down.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I know I've heard Leonardo DiCaprio actually give a lot of young actors advice as to how they can be successful for a long period of time, like DiCaprio has. And his one of the reasons that he claims that he has gotten as far as he has is because he hasn't done any superhero movies. And I thought that was very interesting. And nothing, again, against superhero movies and nothing against non-superhero movies. I just thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
That. Yeah. Rene Russo was originally cast as Chase Meridian, which was, I could see that.
She could have pulled that off in the 90s for sure.
Yeah, Rene Russo was a very lovely-looking woman. And the reason why she was originally cast was because this was at the time that Tim Burton was still attached to direct and Michael Keaton was still attached to play Batman. But then when things kind of started going sour, that's when Joel Schumacher was brought in, and Michael Keaton actually didn't like the direction that Joel Schumacher wanted to take Batman in after Batman Returns, since this is supposed to be somewhat of a continuation. So Michael Keaton left, and Tim Burton left, and Rene Russo, according to the producers and Joel Schumacher, after Val Kilmer was cast as Batman, Rene Russo was quote-unquote too old to play Chase Meridian.
Oh,
and,
brutal.
I just, that is a bit brutal because it was still the 90s and Rene Russo was probably in her 30s or 40s.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable given
really,
Val Kilmer was in his 30s or 40s.
Exactly, yeah. Right? I know.
And since we're on the topic, I'm curious who your favorite Batman love interest has been throughout the Batman movies that you've seen.
Oh, interesting.
Similar
question.
to James Bond love interest, there's a different one every movie, and people usually have their favorites. So I'm curious about yours for Batman.
Well, we have Rachel from the Christopher Nolan universe.
Which iteration of Rachel? The Katie Holmes version or Maggie Gyllenhaal version?
I liked Katie Holmes better than Maggie
too.
Gyllenhaal.
I'm not a huge fan of Maggie Gyllenhaal, to be honest.
Neither am I. I don't not like her, but I like Jake Gyllenhaal's movies more than Maggie Gyllenhaal movies.
Mm-hmm.
I think, other than that, it's Nicole Kidman or Michelle Pfeiffer.
Or Kim Basinger.
Yeah, Kim Basinger. Oh, that's a tough one, especially for the 90s. I'm going to go with Nicole Kidman, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go with Chase Meridian.
And we'll see if that opinion changes once you watch The Batman and see Zoe Kravitz in her role.
Hey... we'll have to see. I do like Zoe Kravitz. I am a fan. Who's your favorite love interest in the Batman
Michelle
universe?
Pfeiffer, without question.
Oh, yeah.
If you're going to be a driven vigilante who has been after his mission for as long as Batman has, he cannot date a normal person. I think the only person who could keep up with you is someone who is as driven as you are.
Ah, okay. Very cool.
And Michelle Pfeiffer is amazing.
Yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer is pretty awesome. One thing about Batman Forever also that I, in a way, I'm not necessarily upset it didn't go this direction, but before Joel Schumacher came on, the tone of the movie was going to be far more serious and far darker. And then Joel Schumacher came on, and all of a sudden the studio kind of 180'd on the entire idea and wanted it to go on the lighter side of things. So I'm curious as to what the script might have looked like before it became what it is today.
Yeah, I would have been very happy to see a third Tim Burton Batman.
Oh, I would have loved that as well. I think Batman Returns out of the two Tim Burtons are definitely, that one's my favorite one.
Oh, yeah. Christopher Walken as the villain and Danny DeVito as Penguin. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some gnarly stuff that goes down in Batman Returns for sure.
and absolutely not dismissing the original Batman. I thought Jack Nicholson did a fantastic job portraying the Joker. And if you think about it, he was the first one to portray a murderous, truly insane Joker, because Cesar Romano, who did the original Joker in the 60s Adam West movies and TV show, that was silly. A lot of people, people didn't die in those movies or that show. And so, yeah, I mean, he took the Joker in a very dark direction. He did a great job.
Hell yeah. And the Joker is definitely a fucked up character.
Oh, yeah.
That was one thing I was going to talk about at some point, but might as well get into it now, was we mentioned earlier there's so many different animated Batman movies. And there was one that came out several years ago that was actually theatrically released, and it was given an R rating, and it was The Killing Joke. And I actually planned on reading the graphic novel before seeing it. Didn't do either of those, so I haven't read the graphic novel. I haven't seen the movie. Have you read or seen The Killing Joke?
I've read it. I actually own The Killing Joke comic book.
Oh.
But I didn't see the movie. I've heard it's very good. And apparently it's now on Netflix, so I really want to watch it.
Oh, yeah, definitely going to have to give it a shot.
Awesome.
Now, we've talked about costumes before in a lot of the discussions over the course of this podcast. This one is very fascinating to me because the costume department for Batman Forever came up with 100 different costumes for Batman and Robin, all to withstand a whole bunch of different stunts and weather conditions and locations, like being, thrown in water and being set on fire, etc., etc. So I thought that was very, very interesting. 100. And there's only 2 actors, that are going to be wearing... Well, that's not true, because there's stunt doubles as well. And the funny thing about a lot of 90s movies and a lot of the stunt sequences is they're shot from a distance, but not so far away that you can't tell that that's not fucking Chris O'Donnell and that's not fucking Val Kilmer.
True.
Some of the shots that they choose, like, really, especially a lot of the times with the dialogue, like when they cut back to them and their mouth is saying something completely fucking different, and you're like, how did the audio... No, that's not right. And going back with the costumes, this is the makeup situation for Tommy Lee Jones. Vee, what do you think? How long do you think Tommy Lee Jones sat in the makeup chair to become Two-Face?
Oh, poor guy. Probably like 5 or 6 hours.
Oh, close. 4 hours.
All right.
4 hours of prosthetic makeup. And I really like the prosthetic makeup. I like that, especially his hair. He's got the floppy hair that's pink. His face is like burned and bruised. He's got the crazy big lips. And then he's got the Harvey Dent, like perfect hair, split on the one side. And he's like a completely clean-cut human being. And that was the one cool thing also about Batman Forever, was the makeup was really badass for Two-Face. And you think about, of course, the digital makeup that they did on Aaron Eckhart for The Dark Knight. I still really like Tommy Lee Jones's makeup. It's really freaky, and it's definitely disturbing. And if that were to happen to me, I feel like I probably would go off the rail too.
And again, it fits with the style of the movie.
Absolutely, yeah. Maniacal and very, very light maniacal.
Yeah, it's purple, and the scarring is like purple and
entertaining.
Pink. Yeah,
it's a weird kind of black comedy Batman where you shouldn't be laughing with Two-Face and the Riddler as they're causing havoc on Gotham City and the innocent folks. But at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, it's Batman. What are you going to do? You can't really do much else. Mel Gibson had to turn down the role of Harvey Dent for this movie due to scheduling conflicts with Braveheart. Very sad news. He also had to turn down the role of Batman in 1989 because he was doing Lethal Weapon 2. Pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, I definitely am glad that he could not be Batman in 89.
Yeah, I know.
Could have been fun to see him as Two-Face, especially when you think of the very first Lethal Weapon, when he's doing that drug deal as an undercover cop.
Right,
and he goes a little bit crazy, like it's funny crazy, and he's a little bit, Three Stooges, and I'm like, I could see him as a campy Batman villain, I guess.
Yeah, I could see it. I could. There is a rumor going around, and I'm fairly sure it exists. Several years ago, there was a Twitter campaign and a social media campaign, #release the Schumacher cut. And there is supposed to be a 3.5 hour Joel Schumacher approved cut of Batman Forever that we may never see, but I would love to see it because it's supposed to be a lot darker. It's supposed to be still as campy as it is, but it's supposed to be a lot heavier on the drama and a lot of the guilt that Batman apparently feels for, a lot of the things that he's doing. This is the first Batman movie to ever refer to Batman as the Dark Knight.
Oh, interesting.
I know, considering all of the movies and everything like that had already come out. This is the first one in 1995. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. In Canada, around the time of the release of this movie, McDonald's released a series of glow-in-the-dark Pogs.
Oh, I collected Pogs as a kid.
Oh my God, so did I. I had the tall tubes.
Me too.
I had like 500 Pogs and like 19 Slammers, and I was always going to Pog parties. And Michael Jackson lobbied for the role of the Riddler.
Oh God.
He lobbied for it for a very long time, but nobody was taking him seriously.
That's good.
Yes. And a few other people that were considered for Robin were Mark Wahlberg, Ewan McGregor, Jude Law, and Matt Damon were all in consideration to play Robin the Boy Wonder, and it went to Chris O'Donnell.
List of 90s it boys.
Yes, indeed. And like I said earlier, Leonardo DiCaprio was also in consideration. So that's Batman Forever, a lot of fun. I still really like the movie. I wouldn't say it necessarily holds up. I mean, again, like it's still a lot of fun. It's still campy. It's still entertaining. It still makes me laugh. There's no real intense moments. There's nothing super disturbing going on in this movie, although Tommy Lee Jones can be disturbing at times. Val Kilmer has actually gone on record saying that this movie is so bad it's almost good, and he is very, very fortunate that he was able to play Batman one way or another, and I thought that was pretty cool because he's fucking Val Kilmer.
Yeah, we're fans of him, that's for sure.
Yes, and I know we have talked about Val Kilmer before, but for those that may not know who Val Kilmer is, Val Kilmer was Iceman in Top Gun. He was in Willow, which we discussed several episodes ago. He was the lead in The Saint, and he is also in one of V's picks coming up.
Oh, yes, and he was also in my pick for episode 9, Tombstone.
That's right, he was in Tombstone. We have discussed Val Kilmer quite a bit here. So Batman Forever came out June 16th, 1995, had a budget of $100 million. Yeah. Opening weekend in the U.S. brought in $52.7 million. The U.S. gross was $184 million, and the worldwide gross was $336.5 million, doing pretty damn well for a $100 million budgeted movie, considering it is definitely not a lot of people's favorite Batman movie, but it is a great fucking movie. Several other movies that came out in June of 1995 that Batman Forever was up against was the original Judge Dredd, Apollo 13,
yes.
Pocahontas.
Wow.
Yes. Slam Dunk Ernest. Congo, which we have mentioned once or twice.
Oh my God. Now that's a bad movie.
That is a bad movie. And the masterpiece Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, also came out in June of 1995. And V, I wonder if you might be able to tell me what the highest grossing movie of 1995 was. We might have just spent a long time discussing it. Like, literally, we might have just discussed it.
Like in this episode?
Like, we might have just discussed it.
Is it Batman Forever?
Batman Forever was the highest grossing film of 1995.
Congratulations. This is only the second time that it's happened that we picked the number one movie of the year.
I know. So awesome.
Awesome.
Number one movie. Congrats to everybody for that one. The number 2 movie was Apollo 13. The number 3 movie was Toy Story. Congrats to Tom Hanks for having two movies in the top 5. Yeah. Number 4 was Pocahontas. Number 5, Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. Number 6 was Casper. Number 7 was your favorite Die Hard with a Vengeance. Then we have Crimson Tide, GoldenEye, and Waterworld as the top 10 movies of 1995.
Shit, that's a good year for movies.
Oh, I'm not done yet. Number 12 was Seven with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. Number 13 was a film that we've discussed that we might just have to throw on here as another Guilty Pleasure episode, Congo, because I actually kind of, oddly enough, still like that movie. Number 14 was the Sandra Bullock, Bill Pullman, lovely romantic comedy, While You Were Sleeping. Number 15, another one of V's favorites, Get Shorty.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah, one I still need to revisit. Number 17 was the original Mortal Kombat. What a fucking terrible movie
That's
is.
a good guilty pleasure movie.
Definitely.
I'm gonna pick that with Congo, and we're gonna have a
Bridget
guilty pleasure.
Wilson Sampras.
Woo! We're gonna have a guilty pleasure 1995 episode.
I love it.
Oh my god, Christopher
Highest-
Lambert.
Yes. Oh, that movie is just terrible. No good. I watched it after I went and saw the newest Mortal Kombat,
Which
and
was
10
also
minutes in, I was
terrible?
like, oh, it wasn't great, but it was so bloody and so violent that it kind of made up for it, just a little bit. The 18th highest grossing movie of 1995, scratching the top 20, my most favorite comedy of all time, Dumb and Dumber, starring Jim Carrey. So that's Jim Carrey having the highest grossing film right there, Batman Forever. Number 5 highest grossing film, Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. 18 highest grossing film of 1995, Dumb and Dumber. So top 20, 3 of them all had Jim Carrey in it. How badass is that?
Oh yeah, 94 and 95.
95,
were
yeah.
peak Jim
Excellent.
Carrey years. Because remember
So
when
good.
you picked your 1994 movie, The Santa Claus.
Oh,
We
yes.
went through a ton of Jim Carrey hits, including The Mask, and yeah,
That's right.
there are a bunch of, I think, 3 different movies that were in the top 50 of his.
Yeah, he was killing it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Number 19 was 9 Months with Hugh Grant and Julianne Moore. I think that movie's pretty hilarious. Some people don't like it.
Nope.
I guess I get it. I guess I can understand why, but not really sure why. I enjoy it. Number 23 was Bad Boys. Great movie. Number 31 was American President.
Oh yeah,
Number 40,
that's a great movie.
Definitely a great movie. Number 44 was the Scorsese, Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, Casino. A gnarly flick. I've seen that movie several times, and I really much enjoy that movie.
It's a great movie. I think I've seen it twice, and I don't think I can ever watch it again. It's just so brutal.
It is. It's very brutal. Yeah. That and Goodfellas are like the two of Scorsese's that are really like, wow.
I just have to go take a walk outside in the sunshine after watching Casino.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. Scratching the top 50 highest grossing films of 1995, coming in at number 47, one of my mostest favorite films, A Goofy Movie. Number 58, What is Like a Box of Chocolates, V?
Forrest Gump is like a box of chocolates.
Yes, Forrest Gump coming in at number 58, highest grossing. Number 63 was the Ice Cube written and starring, including Chris Tucker, film Friday, excellent stoner comedy. Number 66 was the remake with Harrison Ford, Sabrina, which is another one of V's favorites.
I just watched that movie the other day.
Indeed. Number 70 was the Ray Liotta, Danny Glover, Dennis Leary Disney movie, Operation Dumbo Giraffe. If anybody's ever seen that one. I saw it one time in theaters, and I don't think I've ever seen it again. And number 83, scratching the top 100 highest grossing films of 1995, the Elizabeth Berkley-led Showgirls, ladies and gentlemen. One film that I've watched thousands of times on VH1 at 2 o'clock in the morning when I was a teenager, with drawn-in bikini tops and bottoms.
Oh, yeah, because it was on VH1.
It was on VH1. They had to censor it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, what a awful movie Showgirls is.
It is.
Paul Vanderhoven, I believe.
It is almost the level of masterpiece that Speed 2 is.
Oh, yeah. That's good. I like that. I just love that it was the top 100. Paul Verhoeven, if you guys don't know who he is, he directed Showgirls and RoboCop and the true excellent sci-fi insect masterpiece Starship fucking Troopers. Definitely a badass movie. So that is 1995 for me. Batman Forever. Joel Schumacher directed. I forgot to mention Joel Schumacher did pass away in 2020 at the age of 80 years old, and I will always be very fond of Joel Schumacher's work in Batman Forever because I've watched it I don't know how many times. I really have seen this movie so many times, and it's just a blast every time I watch it. It's one of those movies that I can put on and like do, like the laundry, and it's you don't always need to pay attention.
No,
it's just one of those
movie,
like
for sure.
popcorn movie, most def. Yeah, just a feel-good Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
So V, I believe it's your turn.
Nice. And talk about the next Batman movie on our list.
Yeah, Batman. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Oh yeah, old school theme. Nice.
Yeah.
As we discuss, my pick this week is my most favorite Batman movie. Funny enough, it is a more serious turn on Batman, even though it's animated.
Yes.
I am talking about the 1993 masterpiece, and I do say that unironically, Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Hell yeah.
I can't even count how many times I've seen this movie, especially because it came out in line with Batman the Animated Series, which is a show I watched throughout my childhood. Love that series, and I also rewatch that series from time to time every couple years.
Really?
Oh yeah, it is also
I've
on...
never seen any.
Oh, it's amazing, and it's also on HBO Max. Check it out. 30-minute episodes. It's great.
Might have to, yeah.
Batman Mask of the Phantasm is one of the few Batman movies, if not the only, that really focuses on a love story for Batman. And in the midst of it, he is dealing with a new villain called the Phantasm. Now, that is the title of the movie, but actually not a title they ever truly give this villain in the movie itself. It's more implied that this is the Phantasm, which is pretty cool.
I did like that, yeah. It was interesting halfway through the movie. I was like, they haven't actually, named this villain.
No, exactly. And so it's this villain is actually never named, but that is the title of the movie, and so we can obviously infer that. And what's happening is there is a new villain in town called the Phantasm, and he is killing off mob bosses, old school mob bosses who have been around for quite some time. And for any of you who is familiar with the Batman, that is his number one rule. He does not kill.
Yeah.
The problem is that this Phantasm, in profile or in silhouette, looks a hell of a lot like Batman.
Yeah.
And he starts getting mistaken for Batman, and Batman is being blamed for all of these mob boss deaths. There is a politician who's a city councilman who's up and coming and very ambitious, and he starts holding a lot of press conferences blaming Batman for these crimes. And early on in the movie, there's a great quip. It's this city councilman named Arthur Reeves, and he's saying that Batman is a madman, and he's on TV, and it cuts over to Batman and Alfred in the Batcave, and Alfred goes, "Madman? Why, you're the very model of sanity. By the way, I've pressed your tights and put away your exploding gas balls."
I love that.
Yeah, there's great, clever levity in this movie as well, and some of the dialogue. And along with Batman having to deal with not only trying to find this villain, but also elude police through this movie, his first love and what starts to unfold as you see is his one true love that he really took seriously, named Andrea Beaumont, has come back in town after many years of being gone. And I love the flashbacks that help tell the story of what happened with their relationship. And
yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, and it also is in tangent with him becoming Batman when he's much younger, and so you get to see a couple of scenes when he's first Batman, or first this vigilante, I guess is a better way to put it, because he's not dressed in the Batman suit at that point.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. Yeah, he kind of had some makeshift little suit that was very Spider-Man-esque-ish.
Yeah, and very similar, and what you can see that Christopher Nolan pulled from for Batman Begins, because it's Bruce with these, a tactical sweater and a ski mask that has cutout holes in it. And so Christian Bale does the same thing, actually, that is shown in this 1993 version of Batman and his origins, which is very cool.
Yeah.
I really like this movie for a lot of reasons. First of all, I think the storyline is really incredible for an animated movie. It's complex. There's great subplots. There's politics. There's betrayal. There's corruption. There's the mob. There's murders. And it all really ties together and to create this very beautiful movie. Also, because it's animated, there's a lot of things that they can get away with that they can't in live action movies. The action is very fun, and he of course can swing through and fly through the city with ease because it's animated. I love in the very beginning when he crashes into a mob meeting and he starts fighting all these mobsters, and the boardroom table gets turned over and lands on one of these mob guys. Batman, everything's calmed down. He's surveying the room. Most of the guys, he's knocked out and stuff. And this guy that's stuck under the boardroom table is trying to reach for a gun, and he steps on the table and slams it down on the guy and knocks him out.
Yeah, I love that.
I just love that. And it's like, yeah, Batman ain't fucking around.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I really like about this movie is that it has a very complex character of Batman. There's the vigilante. There's Bruce Wayne, who's trying to live up to this vow that he made his parents to fight crime and help people and prevent their tragedy from happening again. But then there's also the Bruce Wayne who is the farce, similar to what we saw a little bit in Chris Nolan's Batman, where he has to act a little like a buffoon. He is this perpetual bachelor. He's always dating these women who aren't very smart or just like hangers on or gold diggers. He's not taking any of this seriously, and he has to pretend, right?
Right.
The other part, though, is that he is known as the world's greatest detective. That is one of the things that Batman has always been called, and I love that they reference it in this movie.
Hell yeah. I always like that too about Batman. He's always taken it under his wing to really keep his city safe and, get to the bottom of exactly who's trying to fuck shit up.
Under his wing? His Batwing?
Oh, hey.
Nice.
That was completely unintentional.
No, that was awesome. And to really level this movie up, about halfway through, we get the Joker.
Hell yeah.
And I love this iteration of the Joker. It is the same Joker that is used in many, many animated movies and shows. It is Mark Hamill's Joker. Of course, everybody knows Mark Hamill. He's very famous from being Cockknocker in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yes, he is. For the Blunt Man and Chronic movie.
I love that cameo of his in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
No.
It's fucking funny.
No, but seriously, Mark Hamill, of course, is Luke Skywalker.
Oh, is that who he is? Luke
Yeah.
Skywalker, that's right.
That's
yes.
right. Yeah, that's right. Okay. He's a Jedi. That's right. Okay.
Oh, that's Darth Vader. Yes.
Oh, yeah. But he plays the Joker so fantastically well. I absolutely love his rendition of Joker because he is so goddamn unpredictable. He's funny and then gets mad and you have no idea what he's going to do, and he has no problem killing anybody.
Come. Have a seat, sir. Tell me what's on your so-called mind.
It's Batman. He's gone nuts. First he whacked Chucky Saul, then Buzz, and now he's after me.
You know, I've been reading lately how old Guano Man is wound tight enough to snap. Wouldn't it be great if I'd finally driven him off the deep end?
This isn't a joke. Batman's knocking us off, and you're the only one who can take him down. Look, $5 million up front with whatever you want to finish him off.
What do I look like? Pest control?
Think, you fool. Once he gets me, how long till he gets you? You know what I'm talking about. Your hands are just as dirty. Dirtier. Don't touch me, old man.
I don't know where you've been. Oh, Sal, no one could take a joke like you.
His voice and his laugh is so classic to me, and I think it needs to be celebrated much more in mainstream than it is.
This was the first time I actually heard Mark Hamill as the Joker, since I really didn't do a whole lot of Batman watching growing up. I never watched the series. I didn't even know that Mark Hamill was the Joker until, like we had mentioned just a few minutes ago, when The Killing Joke came out. I didn't know that Mark Hamill was the Joker. Some people were like, Mark Hamill's returning as the Joker. And I'm like, returning? I had no idea that he was. So that was pretty cool to actually watch Mask of the Phantasm and see the Joker show up, because I actually had no idea the Joker was going to show up, because I had never seen this movie before. Mm-hmm. So this was a completely new experience for me, and it was pretty badass to watch the Joker voiced by Mark Hamill. And it definitely, there are moments where you're like, oh yeah, that definitely sounds like Mark Hamill, but for the most part, it definitely does not.
No, it does not sound like Mark Hamill if you didn't know ahead of time.
Exactly, yeah.
I also love the setting of the animated series in this movie for Gotham City. It's very steampunk.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of steampunk culture and the style, and I absolutely love that about Gotham City. It's very 40s in a lot of ways with the costumes and the cars that they drive, but all the technology is much more advanced. So fucking cool.
Completely agree. It's kind of like some dystopian noir feel kind of to it or something like that. Dick Tracy-esque as well. I like that. I really like that the cars are always Oldsmobile type shit, and the mobsters and even the police are all wearing like, you know, nice pinstripe cut suits and like those top hats and stuff like that.
Double-breasted.
Yeah, it's really cool. And they've definitely got the handkerchiefs in the pocket and walking around with their pipes or their cigarettes.
Yeah, like in the beginning when there's a party and, you know, Bruce Wayne being kind of, you know, the douche that he has to portray. He has one of his ex-girlfriends throw some wine on him.
Right.
And this, like I said, this up-and-coming and very ambitious councilman, Arthur Reeves, he's very weaselly, and he starts talking to Bruce, and he ends up rubbing, you know, he's like, hey, Bruce, you know, here's a my pocket square, you know, and Bruce, of course, is cleaning himself up, but he ends up rubbing Bruce the wrong way, and so he's like, hey, Arthur, thanks for the handkerchief. You know where you can stuff it?
Yes, that was great. There was a lot of adult, like, insults in this movie that are definitely go over a child's head. And that was the one thing that I really liked about Mask of the Phantasm was it really was more of an adult animated Batman story. And I did not anticipate that at all. I anticipated just, you know, a rock'em sock'em type of a Batman movie. There's a little bit of rock'em sock'em action, but majority of this is a dialogue-driven drama.
It is, very much so, and I do believe it has the best love story of any Batman movie I've seen.
Yeah, I agree. It was good. I liked that there was history between both of them, and then, you know, we find out, of course, you know, what kind of is continuing on or not.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think a lot of that has to do with not only how it was written, but also the voice actors. As anyone who's listened to the show before knows that I'm a really big fan of voice actors and think that it takes a whole lot of skill to emote something in a sound booth that will translate into something realistic and believable.
So we meet again. I like the cape. Not sure about the mask, though.
Have you ever seen this?
No.
But that's your father. He's the one who set up their corporate partnership.
So, that's his job.
He was the one element that tied these gangsters together. Where's your father now?
Haven't a clue. Why don't you try Madagascar?
That's not what you told Reeves. You told him you were closer than ever to your father.
You had me bugged, is that it?
I can read lips.
Then read them now. Get out.
You still following your dad's orders?
The way I see it, the only one in this room controlled by his parents is you.
You know, one of the reasons why I was excited about this episode is that we get to talk now about Kevin Conroy, who was the voice of Batman for decades.
Yeah.
He was a Juilliard-trained actor. He received a full scholarship to Juilliard when he was 17.
Jeez.
He did a lot of theater. He wasn't a huge fan of TV that he did and just kept gravitating back towards theater. And his roommate was Robin Williams when he was going to Juilliard. And
no way.
They were both friends with Christopher Reeve. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Who was, of course, in the future Superman. So that's kind of cool that we had Batman and Superman together in college.
Yeah. It's like Dr. Evil and Austin Powers and Goldmember when they were in the same boarding school.
And for anyone who's ever seen any animated series of Batman in the last 30 years, since 1992, or played any Batman video games, you've been able to experience Kevin Conroy's Batman.
Nice.
He has been voicing him since 1992 when the animated series came out.
Wow.
He then did all of the Arkham video games, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, etc., etc. Those are all fantastic.
I hear those are awesome
those are
video games.
Fucking great video games. And then he did the other animated series that Batman's appeared in, so Batman Beyond, Justice League. He voiced Batman for all of the other animated movies like The Killing Joke, Batman Sub-Zero, which I have seen and is good. So he was Batman. He was Batman for me as I was growing up. And unfortunately, he passed away a couple of months ago from battling cancer, and just very, very sad to hear. He was a great guy, and he is one of those people who went and volunteered a bunch right after 9/11 because he lived in New York and, cooked food for first responders. He was openly gay. He's just very, very cool, brave individual and definitely generous with his time. He was always at Comic-Con and always at these conventions. And so just not only an amazingly talented actor, but also, from all reports, a very good human being.
That's awesome. Gotta love to hear that.
Yeah, and one example of his talent is there's an episode of the animated series of Batman called Perchance to Dream. He read the voice of Batman, Bruce Wayne, because he was the first person in animation to do two distinct voices of Batman and Bruce Wayne. He was one of the first to do it at all, as Adam West didn't do it. Michael Keaton did it a little bit,
kind of, yeah,
but only a little bit. Of course, Christian Bale is notorious for having the alternate voice to Batman, which really turned me off.
Yes.
That's one of the only things I hate about those movies.
Yeah, but a lot of people really only mentioned it the most during The Dark Knight Rises, not so much during Dark Knight.
Batman Begins is where I noticed it the most, though.
Really? I didn't notice it even at all.
Swear to me! Well, that's so lame.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, no.
I just... that's interesting because it's fun. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm not saying it didn't happen. Obviously, I remember Dark Knight more than the other two.
No, good to know.
But I always remember in I think it's Dark Knight Rises. I'm not wearing hockey pants, or is that the Dark Knight? No, that's the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay. Yeah, because that's when the Scarecrow shows up in the parking garage.
So, because he's doing different voices for Batman and Bruce Wayne, as I said, during Batman the Animated Series, there's an episode called Perchance to Dream. He read the voice of Batman, Bruce Wayne, Bruce's father, and this evil vision of Batman in real time, alternating between all four characters without having to pause recording.
Damn. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, very talented. He played the voice of Batman for more than 20 years, spanning 9 different television series, 12 animated movies, 7 video games. No other actor has played Batman for so long.
Crazy.
And so that is Kevin Conroy. I am so honored to be able to talk about him on our show.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so the other voice actors who support him in this movie, funny enough, talking about Tombstone, Dana Delaney is Andrea Beaumont, his old love interest in this movie. She is Josephine Marcus, who is Wyatt Earp's love interest in Tombstone. Funny enough, she delivers the same line, "He laughs," exactly as she said it in Tombstone as well.
He laughs.
Is that right?
Yeah, so in this movie you can catch it, and that was actually how I caught that was Dana Delaney when I was younger. I was like, that's the same woman, and I love the movie Tombstone.
Nice.
And she did such a good job in the film that the filmmakers were impressed with her enough that they cast her as Lois Lane in Superman the Animated Series that started in 1996.
Oh, wow.
This came out over Christmas of 1993, so at the time she had Tombstone out and this movie.
Hell yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, that's bitchin'.
Yeah, and a couple other actors who lent their voices to this movie. Hart Bochner. Is Arthur Reeves, the councilman, who's a slick douche. He appeared in one of our movies last month.
No, he didn't.
Also as a douche.
Really?
He is Ellis in Die Hard.
Oh.
Which is
cool.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I never knew that.
I did not put that together at all.
Me either, which I thought that was really funny. I was like, yeah, that fits.
Yeah, that's pretty badass.
Abe Vigoda is also a voice in this movie. He's Sal Valestra, one of the mob bosses. He plays Sal Tessio in The Godfather 1 and 2. He's one of the friends, yeah. Stacy Keach is also in this movie. He plays Carl Beaumont, Andrea's father, as well as the voice of the Phantasm. And so he uses 2 voices for those, which is great. He does a great job.
Yeah, that's pretty... I like when actors do that.
And discussing the storyline of this movie, as I said, as we've both said, we really enjoyed it. It is a bit darker, and it's very good. And one of the reasons is because it got a lot of help from some graphic novels that are also very, very good. It is based on a lot of storyline from Batman Year 1 and Batman Year 2, both of which I own. I will say both of them are very good. I did read them after I saw the movie, because I saw the movie when I was much younger, right after it came out in 93, and then started reading the graphic novels when I was like a teenager. So when I did read them, I was like, oh yeah, I could totally see this, which is cool.
Nice.
And there is an award for animation. It's called the Annie Award. It's an international award.
Oh.
And this is actually the first comic book film ever nominated for an Annie Award for Best Animated Feature.
Very cool.
But unfortunately, it lost to The Lion King.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I get. I get that. And again, as we mentioned, it's very steampunk, which is great. And there's a World's Fair that they go to when there's the flashback of Bruce and Andrea being together, and it's actually inspired by the 1964 New York World's Fair. And it had very cool, very fun. Now that, of course, we're much more in the future, very fun, things of the future, and it's like a robotic dog and all this stuff. Yeah. It's very funny. And as I said, that was a flashback. So now in present time, that World's Fair location for that convention is very run down, is very abandoned, and it's now Joker's lair, which is really cool. And so when he shoots all of the robots from the World's Fair that were like the welcoming robots initially, and they were like singing this song, the Joker gets pissed and shoots all of them. And the sound of them winding down was a very familiar sound for me.
Oh, yeah?
That song.
And I never could really place it until I started researching this movie for the episode. Oh. It is the winding down sound of the Millennium Falcon.
Oh.
From Star Wars. And it's literally Mark Hamill shooting those robots. And I was like, that is a perfect tie-in. Nicely done, filmmakers.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Super fun. And this movie came out in 93, and so it has this very awesome, very 90s R&B song during the credits.
Oh, yes.
I'm wondering if you can guess the singer.
I watched the credits. So I knew who it was.
The end credits is a very rare singing performance by Tia Carrera.
It's a beautiful voice, though. She has a great voice.
We love her on this show. For anybody who listened to our sequels episode when we talked about Wayne's World 2, I am so sad she never released more music.
I know,
She
same.
was so good.
Yeah. On the Wayne's World soundtrack, there are the songs that she sang, though.
Yeah, just a
so
couple.
We have those.
But yeah. I would totally pay for a Crucial concert.
Oh, yeah.
How awesome would that be?
Be badass.
Oh, that'd be so great. And late in production of this movie, Warner Brothers actually decided to make it a theatrical release instead of what they originally intended, which was a direct-to-video release, which I've watched several animated Batman movies that have just been direct-to-video.
Sure.
And while the animators were thrilled and very grateful for the opportunity to actually have a theatrical release to what they were working on, this left them with less than a year of production time to convert the aspect ratio to widescreen.
Oh, yikes.
Which would have been tedious and awful.
Yeah, I'll bet it was.
And that timeline that they had, from start to finish, production took 8 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty quick turnaround for an animated movie, for sure.
But think about how many movies we've talked about recently that had like 6-week production schedule, 30 days for upgrade last week, right?
Yeah.
All of these really intense live action movies. and they had shorter production schedules than ours.
Right. Yeah.
How
it's
crazy.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lastly, I'll say that when they reviewed this film, Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert both said they regretted not seeing it in theaters.
Oh, wow.
Siskel in particular liked the film and compared it favorably to the other Batman films, Batman Returns and Batman Forever.
Nice.
So that is 1993's Batman Mask of the Phantasm. It had a budget of $6 million.
Wow.
Compared to $100 million for your film.
Yeah.
It unfortunately only made $5.6 million in the U.S. theaters, but it more than made up for its full budget through video rentals and purchases.
Oh,
so no
gosh,
worries.
I can only imagine.
Oh, yeah. Very popular movie. And as your movie, it is also available to stream right now on HBO Max.
Which was how I watched it, and it was very enjoyable. It's one I would likely watch again as well, because I liked it that much, and I thought it was really cool for being an hour and 16 minutes and being so, adult forward and not so much on the campy side, especially for an animated version of Batman, was very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the only critique I have of this movie. And it's actually a kind of backhanded compliment, I suppose. I think this movie is too short. And so I think it moves from plot point to plot point pretty rapidly. I think this movie would have been a bit more polished if it was more like an hour 35 minutes.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I could see that. Definitely.
But I guess that's a backhanded compliment because what I'm saying is I wish there was more of this movie.
That's also true. Yes. Yeah. We always want more, and that's always good.
That is always a good sign. If you want more from a movie, it means you really enjoyed it.
Hell yeah.
Well, that's our Batman episode. I'm so glad that we decided to touch on this character, and I'm so happy to hear that you enjoyed my pick.
Absolutely. I did indeed. And like I said, I'd definitely watch it again. I will very likely be watching Batman Forever again because,
of course,
again, yeah, it's my favorite one. And it still holds up, and it's great. And I'm glad that both of these held up for being early 90s features in the Batman realm. You know, they're like we said with Batman Forever, there's campiness and cheesiness, but it doesn't feel like it's like that overtly like, oh gosh, this does not hold up type cheesiness.
Yeah, like ludicrous rolling your eyes camp, right? There's a fine line.
There definitely is. And I don't think Batman Forever used the Wilhelm scream, so there we go. There's that
so it's
realism
not that cheesy.
Exactly.
Nice. And would you watch Batman Forever with your grandma?
Yeah, I would. I would definitely watch Batman Forever with my grandma. I might have actually at this point. You never know. I honestly can't remember. Would you watch Batman Mask of the Phantasm with your grandma, V?
I might have in the early 90s. I can't remember, but I absolutely would. It's so funny, though, because your movie is live action, but it's more campy. There's less deaths.
Right.
Maybe even an argument to be said, like, less realistic violence.
Yeah, definitely.
But mine's an animated movie. But maybe I would suggest younger people watching yours than mine. I'm very torn.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Because mine is PG-13, yours is PG.
Yeah.
But I think yours got the PG because it's an animated film, although there have been later Batman animated straight-to videos that have gotten the PG-13 rating. So, yeah, it's interesting. The years of how the MPAA rates has always fascinated everybody, the masses of the world.
So subjective. Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, it evolves with time. It evolves with cultural norms, of course. And which it should. So yeah, I think that preteens or on the younger spectrum of teenager could probably watch both of these movies.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly, yes.
Well, that about wraps up our picks for our Batman episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and please feel free to let us know what your favorite Batman movie is or who your favorite Batman actor was.
Always fascinated to know what people's opinions are on who plays what character better.
And for everyone who's listening, please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast. We are still growing this audience. We are still growing this show. that is so important to us in the early stages of us making this podcast, and we deeply appreciate it. It literally makes our week when we get a written review, and I believe we actually have a new one.
We do. No idea who this is coming from. Says that the writer is Happy Kwanzaa, and the title is so insightful. They gave us a 5-star rating, so thank you for that. The review reads, I love this pod. You guys touch on things I never would have thought of. I recommend this to all my friends. So thank you, Happy Kwanzaa, whoever you are. Send us a message on Instagram, Facebook, or on Twitter, or our Gmail account, and we will get you a sticker.
Yes, we will be happy to send you one, and thank you so much for that kind write-up. We both were so stoked when we saw it, so thank you.
Indeed. Thank you guys very much for continuing to come back. This is our second episode of 2023, and I'm very excited for what is to come.
Me too. And speaking of what is to come, do you want to talk about what is on the docket for next week?
I'm choosing a comedy from 1974. This is a remake from a much, much earlier version, directed by Billy Wilder, starring Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon. This is titled The Front Page, and you can stream The Front Page on HBO Max or on Amazon Prime or Tubi or Pluto if you have a subscription.
Nice. And to complement that, I am picking the 1960 classic, which also happens to star Jack Lemmon.
Hey!
And Shirley MacLaine. It's called The Apartment.
Yeah!
Which is really funny that we both decided to just pick classic movies and they both happen to have Jack Lemmon in them.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I've never seen The Apartment, so I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Yeah, that worked out perfectly. And you can see it, as well as our audience can watch it on Pluto TV or Tubi for free. Those are both streaming apps. They are free. Feel free to add them to your smart TV if you don't have them, especially Tubi. I've been pleasantly surprised by that app.
Yeah, Tubi's not bad.
It has commercials, but it has a ton of movies you might be interested in watching. So feel free to add that to your system if you've got a smart TV.
I concur fully with that. Tubi is pretty awesome.
All right. Well, that about wraps us up for episode 39. I'm Batman. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And until next time, we like to close out our show with film is a form of art, and in art, every opinion is valid, except if you think
there can only be one good rendition of a superhero movie.
Oh, nice. Yes.
I mean, we're talking
agree.
Batman this entire time. Why not discuss the fact that there are several fantastic Batman films out there, several great Spider-Man films out there? Because, a lot of people think Christian Bale's the Batman. George Clooney might be the Batman to people with Batman and Robin. I don't know who those people are because I don't hang out with them. That's very true. Yes, my wife. I think that's kind of one of the beautiful things about this episode in particular is because both of these are completely different Batman movies, completely different casts, completely different stories, and they work, and it always seems to, and I think that that's always really badass.
Yes, absolutely. Wholeheartedly agree.
Fantastic. And on that note, I think this is where we cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.